Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Friday, December 6th. If you are just tuning in, we just finished going over the walk-off victory of the Lions over the Packers on Thursday Night Football. In this segment, we go over the rest of the slate in the NFL. 13 games to go over, including the Monday Night Football game. We'll go over all of them, give final score predictions and reasonings why. But before we get into that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Friday, December 6th. But like I was saying, we are going to get into some NFL game picks here on a Friday night. Week 14 already here. Final bye weeks of the season are now beginning. We're going to start off with the 1 o'clock games. All but four games on Sunday, all but 5 games on the slate are in the 1 o'clock hour. So a very stacked 1 o'clock hour this week. Starting off with a game that I don't think is going to be that good, and it doesn't even sound that good on paper. The Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Tennessee Titans in Tennessee. Will Levis has played much better football since coming back from injury. Probably tells you a little bit about what he was dealing with in the beginning of the season. Now, that wasn't all of it. He also wasn't making the best decisions. Obviously, that was shown by some of what he was doing on the field, but he's cleaned it up a little bit. He hasn't been perfect, there's no doubt about it, but going up against a bad Jacksonville secondary, a Jacksonville team that now is without Trevor Lawrence for the rest of the season, starting Mac Jones, and a Titans defense that honestly is underrated. They just gave up 42 points to the Commanders. They also gave up about that same amount of points to the Lions earlier in the season, but even with both of those, this is still a top 5 defense in the league. It's been playing really well and is a little bit banged up, but I still believe in this defense to shut down a Mac Jones-led Jacksonville unit. I think this is going to be a huge game for Tennessee. They haven't really had one of those all season long, but I think the offense really explodes in this one. You saw a little bit of life at the end of that Commanders game for them in that second half. I think they use that momentum and absolutely destroy their division opponents at home. They win 31-17. The Jets, the hobbled New York Jets, really everything going wrong for that Jets team. They traveled to Miami to take on a Dolphins team that desperately needs a win to stay alive in the playoff picture. Miami is favored by 6 in this matchup. Tua just coming off of a not so great game against the Packers in the cold. They need to have a huge game from him. The Dolphins defense has been playing good. It's not a defense that's going to rank in the top of the league, but it is one of those defenses that will bend and not break. They'll hold you to 3 instead of 7, and that is a huge win for that team. That defense, as long as it continues to play like that against the Jets team that seemingly is cursed right now, Aaron Rodgers not having his best season, probably his worst, and Breece Hall now doubtful, most likely out for the game, so they're going to be turning to rookie running back Braylon Allen for this one. That is where the Dolphins have been able to be exploited, through the run and through the screen game especially. So if the Jets are going to have a big game, it's going to be through these check down passes to a guy like Braylon Allen. It's already something that Aaron Rodgers has been doing a lot of. I'm not sure if this is a great matchup for the Dolphins, but I do believe in that Dolphins offense to take care of a hobbled Jets defense, missing CJ Mosley, who just went on IR, missing Sauce Gardner, who's doubtful for this game. Those are 2 of their big pieces, and I think the Dolphins will do enough to get it done here. They win 28-23. The Atlanta Falcons are limping into this game, taking on the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings in this one favored by 5.5 points. At home, Sam Darnold just coming off one of his better games. He had kind of shut down for a little bit. They bring in Daniel Jones maybe for a little bit of motivation, have a nice solid backup plan. He has a really solid game. I'd like to see them go towards Justin Jefferson a little more, but with that Atlanta Falcons defense, they just came off of their best game, actually. They had 5 sacks in that game when all year before they had 11. So they almost had half of their total sacks from last week, from the whole season, just last week. That is a huge improvement for that defensive line. They're going to be going up against a better, maybe about the same offensive line in the Minnesota Vikings this week. So I'm not sure if they're going to be able to do that again, but if they do come out with that kind of pass rush once again, this is going to be a long day for Sam Darnold in Minnesota, because the guys on the back end, they're good. They just haven't been good enough to cover while the pass rush is not getting home. Now, all that being said, the weapons that Minnesota has is insane. And this is Kirk Cousins' revenge game, quote unquote, heading back to Minnesota after leaving in free agency. So maybe he comes out with a little oomph. He needs to go out there after tossing 4 interceptions. He needs to go out there and have a big game. Not sure how it's going to go, and really this is a Falcons team that has been the opposite of consistent. It either loses by its defense or loses by its offense, and I'm not sure they're going to be able to put together a complete game against a good Minnesota Vikings defense. Minnesota comes out with a victory, 27-20. The New Orleans Saints travel to the Giants to travel to East Rutherford to take on the New York Giants. This is a game that, again, it sounds bad. It's going to be bad. The Giants are starting Drew Lock. They lose their best player in Dexter Lawrence for the season on Thanksgiving. He gets to rest. This is a Giants team that currently holds the number 1 overall pick in the draft for a reason. They've got some guys that you look at and you say, hey, you could build around that. I still think some of the guys on the offense based on volume might have a good day statistically, but when it comes down to it, I don't think this Giants team has anything going for it, and this Saints team is going to clean up a weaker schedule down the stretch here. They get a big victory, 33-17. The Carolina Panthers travel to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. The Eagles, arguably one of the hottest teams in all of football right now, the way they've been playing, and this is just a bad matchup for them, right? This is a team that's based around the running back, and the Carolina defense has been atrocious against the run game. We saw Bucky Irving rip them for over 100 yards. Tyrone Tracy ripped them for over 100 yards. Basically, every single running back that they've faced this season has had a huge day against them. And when you look at the way that Philadelphia defense is playing, it's playing like arguably the best defense in the entire league. I like what Bryce Young is doing. I really do. But I just don't think this is going to be the day. 13 points is a lot of points, and I still think with the momentum that Panthers offense has, they're going to be able to put up just a little bit of something against this hot Philly defense, but I don't think they're going to be anywhere close to a win. They still lose by 2 scores, but I think 13's too much. Philadelphia pulls out a huge victory for them, keeping pace in the NFC for that bye, 31-21. Up next, we have a rematch of the Snow Globe game. The Cleveland Browns travel to Pittsburgh to take on those Steelers. The Steelers favored by 6.5 in this one, which for me is a lot of points. I know we just saw Russell Wilson go for over 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. This is a guy that is playing his best football in years right now, but we've also seen him regress. We saw him against the Browns, even without the snow coming down early on in the game. It wasn't the greatest performance. This is a division game. You have to remember that. And I know last week was a division game, but this is going to be a different kind of division game. We're going back to classic Steelers. And I think the Steelers still will find a way to pull this one off at home. 6.5 points is way too much. You have Jameis Winston. He's going to find a way to keep it close or keep him out of it. And I think in this one, we just had a game where he went full Jameis. He's going to calm it down a bit. Be a little bit safer with the ball. It's not going to be as explosive of a night for the Browns. Still should be a close game. Steelers win this one 27-24. The Las Vegas Raiders traveled to Tampa Bay, a cross-country flight to take on Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers. The Bucs in this one are favored by 6.5. This is going to be a bad game. There's not too many great games on the schedule, if I'm being completely honest with you. You take a look at this Tampa Bay team and the way that they've been playing football. Bucky Irving has really come on down the stretch. They just absolutely mowed over a bad Carolina run defense. This Las Vegas run defense is not much better, if it's even better at all. Bucky Irving should have a huge day against the Raiders. Look for them to absolutely destroy them. I'm taking the Buccaneers to win this game pretty handily, 30-19. Getting into the 4 o'clock windows, we have a rematch of a game that did not go the way that I or a lot of people expected to last time they played, as the Seattle Seahawks, ahead in their division right now, take on the Arizona Cardinals. Now, this is a massive, massive game for playoff seeding. The Cardinals are one game back of the Seahawks, and the Seahawks beat the Cardinals last time they played just a couple weeks ago. Seattle looking to hold tight onto that division. Geno Smith has not been playing his best ball, but he's been doing enough to get them wins. I'd like to see them rely a little bit more on Kenny Walker than they've been doing. They've been mixing in a lot of Zach Charbonnet. The Seattle defense and the Arizona defense really have been playing a lot better as of late. The Arizona defense is a much bigger surprise to me. Now, they haven't been dominating like they were a couple of weeks ago, but they're still playing good football. Against the Vikings, they held them out of the end zone until the third quarter, the very end of the third quarter. That was a huge performance for them against a stacked Vikings lineup, right? You talk about a lineup that up and down, you got skill positions out the wazoo. This is not going to be the same game as it was before when the Cardinals played the Seahawks. The Cardinals' offense is just not consistent enough, and because of that, I'm leaning in the direction of the Seahawks. You know what we're going to get out of the Seahawks? We're going to get a 17 to 30 point game. We're going to get solid defense, not great, not bad, and they're going to find a way to win this type of game. I think the Seahawks escape with a victory over the Cardinals, 26 to 21. The Buffalo Bills in potentially, again, another one of those games that on paper looks like one of the better ones of the week. After clinching their division, travel across the country to take on the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams are in a position where they kind of need to win this game. The Bills are getting a little bit healthier on offense. We have a Bills team that could potentially get back all three of their big weapons on the outside. They're going to get Amari Cooper back. He is expected to play for the first time in a while. They're questionable about Dalton Kincaid, the star tight end, and the rookie wide receiver Keon Coleman. They've been fine without them, but it would be nice to get them back. This is a Rams defense that plays good football. The Rams offense has been playing better. We talk about it a lot. I love the way that they use excuse me. I love the way that they use their two receivers, right? You have Cooper Kupp, who had a little bit more of a quiet day. Puka's continued to be just a monster all year, regardless of his matchup. This is going to be a fun matchup in this one. I think it's going to be high scoring. I think it's going to be back and forth. But I'm looking at the Buffalo Bills to pull this one out just barely, winning 28 to 27. In the final game of the afternoon window, the Chicago Bears, fresh off of firing their coach, travel to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. Brock Purdy, coming off of maybe his worst game of his career, he needs to have a huge bounce-back effort. The 49ers are injured up and down and back up and down that roster, right? This is not a fun year to be a San Francisco 49ers fan. Neither is it to be a Bears fan. They've lost 6 straight games, pretty much in the most brutal way you could possibly imagine. And with Matt Eberflus gone, I think that gives them the boost they need. There were confrontations by the defensive players at Matt Eberflus after that Thanksgiving game. I think this is something that's going to bring the locker room together. They're going to rally around the interim offensive coordinator that now became the interim head coach. He's going to get them going, and I think they find a way to take care of the San Francisco 49ers, and the San Francisco 49ers get all but eliminated from the playoff picture at this point, with the Bears winning 30 to 28. The Sunday night football game, a division game in the AFC West that could see the Chiefs clinch their division. The Chiefs are hosting the Los Angeles Chargers in this one. Mahomes has not been playing his best football. The Chiefs favored by 4 in this one. The Chargers are without their running game. And that is a huge, huge point. This is a team that, regardless of the numbers that Justin Herbert has been putting up recently, revolves around that run game. When we don't have the threat of a run, especially against a really good run defense in Kansas City, it's going to be a long day for Justin Herbert. Ladd McConkey is questionable. If he can't go, they are going to be in a lot of trouble, and I don't know where they're going to get offense from. I'm taking the Chiefs to win this one in close fashion like they always do, but I don't think the Chargers stand much of a chance this week, if I'm being honest. The Chargers lose, Chiefs win 23 to 17. And finally, the Monday Night Football game. This is going to be a game without any defense. They could probably just play 7-on-7, and it would be the exact same game. This is going to be a huge game for fantasy, for offenses. Don't touch anything on that defense. I'm taking the Cincinnati Bengals, who are favored by 5, to just overpower the Dallas offense, just because Joe Burrow versus Cooper Rush is not the same as Joe Burrow versus Dak Prescott. I'm not saying Cooper Rush won't have a good game, because he is playing a tattered defense, a bad defense, but I don't think it's going to be enough at the end of the day, and I think the Cincinnati Bengals get a win, a much-needed win for them, 41-34. But let me know what you think. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we turn our attention to college football. The championship week is underway. We're going to do predictions for all 9 of the FBS conferences, including a couple of the games that are already underway. We'll talk about that and more coming up next here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.